So here is the uncomfortable truth about listening. Most new leaders think they are a good listener because they stay quiet while other talks. But staying quiet isn't listening. It's just not talking. And this distinction, it's costing you trust, information, and ultimately your effectiveness as a leader. According to Gallup State of America workplace research, 67% of the employee disengagement stems from poor communication, from leadership. And the foundation of that communication is listening. Not speaking, not waiting for your turn to respond, actually listening. I'm Ali, and for the past decade, I've seen a lot of teams in a very high pressured environments. I've watched this pattern repeating itself dozens of times. A new leader gets promoted, of course, smart person, technically excellent. They think I need to listen more, ask good questions, be approachable. So they do. They sit in one-on-ones, they nod, they maintain eye contact, they even take notes. But 3 months later, their team still doesn't trust them. Projects still miss critical details. People still say they just don't get it. And the leader is frustrated because they think, hey, but I'm listening. I'm doing everything right. So what's the problem? Yeah, well, here's what actually happening. There are 3 levels of listening, 3 fundamentally different skills that most people think are all the same thing. And here's the problem. Most new leaders operate at level 1, maybe level 2 on a good day, but the trust building, information gathering, relationship strengthening listening, that's level 3. And nobody teaches you how to do it. Let me show you what I mean. Level 1 is passive listening. This is where you hear words, you process languages, but really you're waiting for your turn to talk. You know this listening. Someone's talking and you're already formulating your response. You might even be thinking about what you're going to have for lunch. You're physically present. The words are entering your ears, but you're not engaged. Most people spend about 80% of their conversation here. Research from International Journal of Listening shows that most people retain only about 25% of what they hear in typical conversation. And that's level 1. Level 2 is active listening, and this is what gets taught in most leadership training. You are paying attention to content. You're asking clarifying questions. You might even paraphrasing what you hear. So what I'm hearing is something like that. This is good. This is useful. You're actually processing information now. But here's what's interesting. Level 2 listeners still misses about 50% of what really being communicated. Because they are listening to words, to content, to explicit information, but they are missing emotions. They are missing context. They are missing what's not being said. And that missing information, that's where the real leadership works happen. Let me tell you about this person, Sarah. Sarah was promoted to lead a team of 7 engineers, right? Technically brilliant, great problem solver. But she knew that she needed to be a better listener as a leader. So she scheduled regular one-on-ones. She asked open-ended questions. She took detailed note of what their team is saying. After 3 months, her manager asked how things were going. Sarah said, it's going great. I'm listening to my team, checking in regularly, and building relationships. Then her manager showed her the anonymous team survey result. Sarah doesn't understand what we are dealing with. She asks questions but doesn't really hear us. I don't feel comfortable sharing challenges with her. Sarah was devastated. She thought, but I'm listening. What more do they want? Here's what actually happening. Sarah was operating at level 2. She was listening to the content of what her team was saying. This project is challenging. We are behind schedule. There's some technical depth. She acknowledged it, sometimes offer a solution and move on. But what she was missing was level 3. When her engineer said this project is challenging, what he was really trying to communicate was, I'm overwhelmed. I don't think I have the skill to solve this. I'm afraid of letting the team down. When another team member said, we are behind schedule, what she really saying was, I think our timeline is unrealistic and I'm frustrated that nobody is listening when I try to explain why. The words were neutral. The actual message full of emotions, context, and unspoken concern. That's the difference between level 2 and level 3. So here's what we are going to do in the next 25 minutes. I'm going to teach you level 3 listening, the skill that separates the leaders who build trust from the leader who wonders why their team doesn't open up. You're going to learn, first, the specific signal that tells you someone is communicating at the level deeper than their words. Second, the PARE Response System, a 4-step framework that ensures you are responding at the right level to what actually being communicated. Third, how to practice this skill deliberately so it becomes automatic in high-pressure situations. And by the end, you'll have a system you can implement in your very next conversation. Not someday when you're more experienced, not after you take a course. Literally, your next conversation, you can implement that setup. Because transformational listening isn't some mystical soft skill that takes years to develop. It's just a system with observable signal, repeatable technique, and measured outcome. All right. Now let's break everything down. Here's the complete system. The 3 levels listening hierarchy operates like this. Level 1 is basically passive listening. You hear words, you are physically present, but you're not fully engaged. Your mind is elsewhere. Level 2 is active listening. You process content, you ask clarifying questions, you demonstrate understanding, but you are focused on explicit information. Level 3, that's what someone calls it's a transformational listening. You read emotions beneath the words. You notice what's not being said. You understand context and implications. You respond to the complete message. Now, most leadership advice stops there. Just listen better, be present, and show empathy. I think that's useless. What you need is a system that tells you, how do I know what level I am at? How do I shift to the right level? What do I actually do differently at level 3? Now this is where the PARE response system comes in. Before we get into the technique, you need to understand why most people, even leaders who genuinely care, default to level 1 or level 2. These are 3 psychological barriers. Barrier number 1, cognitive load management. Your brain is constantly managing limited processing capacity. Research from cognitive psychology shows that working memory can hold about 4 to 7 chunks of information at once. When someone is talking, your brain is simultaneously processing their words, maintaining context from earlier in the conversation, preparing your response, managing your own emotions and reaction, and then also monitoring the environment. So your brain takes a shortcut. It focuses on explicit content, which comes under level 2, because that's easier to process than the complex emotional and contextual layer beneath. Now, barrier number 2, the response preparation bias. Studies in communication psychology reveals that most people start preparing their response after hearing just 17 seconds of someone speaking. 17 seconds. That means for the remaining minutes, which is 5 minutes of someone talking, you're not really listening anymore. You are just rehearsing. And here's what's crazy. This feels like listening. You're engaged. You're thinking about what they say. You are formulating a thoughtful response. But you have stopped receiving the new information after just 17 seconds. That's crazy, right? Barrier number 3, conflict avoidance. Level 3 listening requires acknowledging emotions, and emotion makes people uncomfortable. I watched a new leader conduct a one on one where his team members said, I'm fine with the project timeline, but her tone, posture, and facial expression all screamed frustration. The leader heard I'm fine and moved on. Why? Because going deeper meant potentially uncovering conflict disagreements or emotions he'd have to address. Level 2 listening let him stay comfortable. Now, level 3 would require him to say, hey, your word says you're fine, but I'm sensing some concerns. What's really going on? That's harder. That's very uncomfortable to say. So most leader unconsciously just avoids that. But here's the good news. Once you understand these barriers, you systematically can overcome them very easily. All right, here's the system that changes everything. The PARE Response System. P for pause, A, acknowledge, R, reflect, E, explore. These 4 steps ensure you are responding to what actually being communicated, not just what being said. Let me walk you through each one. Step number 1, pause. When someone finishes speaking, count to 3 in your head before responding. This does 3 things. First, it gives your brain time to shift from preparing response mode to absorbing information mode. Second, it signals respect. It tells the other person, I'm thinking about what you said, not just waiting to talk. Third, and this is the key, it creates the space for them to add more information. Often the most important thing someone wants to say comes after initial statement. But if you jump in immediately, they never gets there. So I was coaching a leader, I don't want to name it, but who struggled with the team engagement. I asked him to implement just this one step, pause for 3 seconds after anyone on his team finishes talking. 1 week later, he told me, I can't believe how much more I'm learning. People keep adding more stuff after that pause. Things they wouldn't have said if I'd respond immediately. That's the power of pause. All right, now step number 2, acknowledge. After the pause, acknowledge both the content and the emotion you are observing from your eyes. So this is where your ears and your eyes does a lot of things. This is where most people fail. They acknowledge the content only. So they only gonna acknowledge what they hear, but not what they are observing. They're gonna be like, got it, so the deadline is tight. So you need more resources. Understood, the client is upset. That's level 2 acknowledgement. You are confirming you heard the word. So level 3 acknowledgement sounds like this. I hear that the deadline is tight, and I'm also noticing that this seems really stressful for you. You're saying you need more resources, and it feels like you are frustrated that this keeps happening. The client is upset, and I sense you are worried about how this reflects on the team. You see the difference? You're acknowledging the explicit content, what they said, and the implicit message, what they are feeling and experiencing. Now here's the key. You're not making assumption. You're offering your observation with humility. I'm sensing. It seems like. This language invites them to correct you if you're wrong. And if you're right, they feel truly seen. All right, step 3, which is reflect. Reflection is where you are summarizing what you understand about the complete message, like a content, emotions, and the context. The formula. So what I'm understanding is then you put the content, and then you put the effect, and this matters because the context. Let me give you an example. Let's say your team member tells you the new process is taking longer than expected. I've been staying late to keep up, but I'm not sure how sustainable this is. A level 2 reflection would be like this. So the new process is slower and you're working very late. A level 3 reflection would be something like this. So what I'm understanding is the new process is taking longer than expected, which is causing you to work unsustainable hours. And this matters because you are trying to maintain quality while also protecting your well-being. And you are not sure those two things can coexist with current system. Now you tell me in the comment section which one makes the person feel truly heard. Reflection step does something powerful. It gives the other person a chance to confirm, correct, or deepen their message. Often they'll say yes, exactly, and then add even more context you didn't have. And the last step, explore. Now that you have demonstrated you truly understand, you can explore deeper. This is where you ask questions that uncover what's beneath the surface. Whenever you are asking surface questions, that's like more level 2. What do you need to meet the deadline? How can we speed up the process? What resources would help you? Now, deep questions that gonna come under level 3. It's gonna sound like this. What about this situation concerns you the most? What would need to be different for this to feel sustainable? What am I missing about how this is affecting you? You see, notice the difference? Surface questions usually focus on logistics and solution. Deep questions focus on understanding the person's experience, priorities, and perspective. And here's what happens when you consistently ask deep questions after demonstrating you truly heard them. People will start telling you things they wouldn't otherwise share with you. They bring you the problems very early on. They start to trust you with information that helps you lead even more effectively. That's what transformational listening is all about. Now let's quickly review where we are. The PARE response system. Pause 3 seconds to shift from responding to observing. Acknowledge. Name both content and the emotion you are seeing. Third, reflect. You are basically summarizing the complete message, the way you hear it and the way you see it. Explore. Ask deep questions that uncover perspective. And now this is the core system for level 3 listening. But now you might be thinking, oh, this sounds great, but when do I actually use this? Do I do this every conversation? Well, let me show you exactly when to deploy each level. So here's where most leaders mess this up. They learn about level 3 listening and think, great, I'm going to do this in every single situation. Don't. Level 3 listening is powerful, but it's also intensive. It requires significant cognitive energy and time. If you try to do it in every single conversation, you'll burn out and people will think you are being fake. Here's when to use each level. Level 1, which is passive, appropriate for casual social interaction. Information you don't need to retain. Very low stake updates and quick status check. Level 2, which is the active listening, which is appropriate for task coordination, information gathering, project updates, problem solving decisions, and most day-to-day work conversation. Level 3, it is reserved for one-on-one with your team, conflict or tension situation, performance or career conversations, when someone seems off or stressed, strategic or high-stake decisions, whenever emotions are present. So most of your conversation should be on level 2, and that's fine. That's appropriate, but you need to be able to shift to level 3 when it matters the most. Now, of course, we're going to see a lot of pitfalls in this. So let's talk about that. Pitfall number 1, the fake empathy trap. Some leaders learn these techniques and apply them mechanically. I'm sensing you are frustrated. What I'm understanding is, sounds like you're reading from the script. People can smell fake empathy from a mile away. If you're using a PARE system as a manipulation technique to get through conversation faster, it will backfire really quickly and very terribly too. The foundation of level 3 listening is genuine curiosity about the other person's experience. If you don't actually care what they are thinking and feeling, no techniques will save you. But if you do really care, these techniques can help you demonstrate the care effectively. Pitfall number 2, the premature solution jump. Here's the pattern I see constantly. Leader asks a deep question. Team member starts to open up. Leader immediately jump to solution. And the team member's like, let me give you an example. Let me give you a common scenario. Team member says, hey, I'm struggling with this workload and starting to feel burned out. Leader, oh, let me help. We can distribute some of your tasks, maybe bring in a temp position, maybe open up the temp position and adjust your deadline. Seems helpful, right? No, this is very wrong. The team member didn't get to finish explaining their experience. Let them talk, man. They didn't feel fully heard. And the leader might be solving the wrong problem entirely. So give your employee some chance to speak and you just actively listen. The rule, don't do the solution until you have complete the PARE cycle. Pause, acknowledge, reflect, and then explore the solution. Explore. What that means is, like, the person that's bringing the problem to you, you both together sit and explore and problem solve that together. Pitfall number 3, the note-taking shield. Many leaders think taking detailed note demonstrate good listening, but it can also become a barrier. If you're focused on capturing every word that you're missing the tone, their body language, and their emotion. You're stuck at level 2. My recommendation is take minimal notes during the conversation, capture key phrases and commitments. Then immediately after, within 5 minutes, spend 2 minutes writing it down. And you can write down main content, emotional tone, what might be unspoken, and then follow up if needed. This keeps you present during the conversation while still documenting what matters. All right, let's make this concrete. I'm going to walk you through 3 real scenarios and show you exactly how to apply the PARE system. Scenario number 1, a performance conversation. Your team member missed a deadline. You need to address that in your one-on-one. What they say. Here's what they say. I know that report was due yesterday. I've just had a lot going on. You're pausing. Don't immediately respond. Acknowledge. I hear that you have had a lot happening, and I'm noticing you seem stressed about missing the deadline. And then the reflect part comes. So what I'm understanding is that something beyond the usual workload prevented you from completing this on time. And you are probably feeling a combination of overwhelmed and concern about how I'm perceiving this. Then you're going to explore. Help me understand what's been going on. What's making this period particularly challenging? Notice this. You haven't accused them. You haven't lectured about accountability. You have just opened the space for them to explain it to you of what's going on. Often what you'll discover is important context, like a family emergency, a system issue, another project you didn't know about, or a skill gap that's been hiding. You can't lead effectively without that information. Scenario number 2, the conflict between the team member. 2 of your team members are in conflict. One comes to you and says, "Hey, I can't work with David anymore. He never follows through on his commitment and promises." Pause. I hear your frustration with David's follow through. It sounds like this has been building for a while and it's now affecting your ability to work effectively. Then you're going to reflect. What I'm understanding is that there have been multiple instances where David hasn't delivered on what he committed to do. And this is creating problems for you, probably making your job harder and possibly affecting your trust in the team. Then you can explore. Walk me through what's been happening. When did this pattern start? And what impact is it having on your work specifically? Two things are happening here. First, you're not immediately taking sides or jumping to "let me fix David." And second, you're gathering complete information about the pattern, impact, and the history. This prevents you from making leadership decisions based on incomplete information. Now let's quickly go through the scenario number 3, the hidden struggle. In a routine one-on-one, you ask, "How's everything going?" And your normally engaged team member says, "Fine, everything is fine." But their tone is flat. Their posture is very closed, and something you are sensing something's off. You're gonna pause, and then you're gonna start acknowledging, "Hey, you're saying everything is fine, but I'm noticing you seem less energized than usual. What's really going on?" This is level 3 in action. You're acknowledging the disconnect between the words and everything else. Then you're gonna start reflecting. It seems like maybe things aren't actually fine, and you might be dealing with something you are not sure you should bring to me. And then you're gonna explore. I want to understand what you are experiencing, what's on your mind. Often this is where you discover someone is struggling with confidence, considering leaving, or dealing with a personal crisis, or feeling very undervalued. Information you desperately need as their leader, but you'll never get it with level 2 listening. So here's your 30-day challenge to master this transformational listening. Week 1, practice the pause. Every single conversation this week, meeting, one-on-one, schedule chats, implement this 3 seconds pause before responding. That's it. Just that one step. Count to 3 in your head. Let people finish. Create a space. By the end of the week 1, this will feel less awkward, and you'll start noticing how much additional information people share in that space. Week number 2, add the acknowledgement. Continue the pause, but now also add acknowledgement of emotions. Practice saying, "I'm noticing, I'm sensing, it seems like." Your goal basically is acknowledge emotions or underlying tone at least 5 times this week. Track it, write it down, what you said, and then what happened. Now you're ready for the complete system, so start implementing it. Choose 3 to 5 important conversations this week. Could be one-on-one, could be conflict situation, could be a strategic discussion. Apply the full PARE system. Pause, acknowledge. When you are doing the acknowledgement, you are doing content plus emotions. Then reflect phase, you're basically completing the message. And then explore is basically when you're asking the deep question. Take notes after each conversation about what you learned that you wouldn't have learned with level 2 learning. Then week number 4, level selection practice. This week is about calibration. Practice very consciously choosing which listening level is appropriate for each conversation. Ask yourself, does this conversation need level 3? What signals tells me to shift levels? Am I using the right levels for this situation? By the end of the week 4, you should be able to recognize when level 3 is needed. Apply the PARE system without even thinking about it. You're going to start noticing the difference in information quality you are receiving, and also you're going to start seeing changes in how your team engages with you. Here's what most people don't tell you about transformational listening. It changes you. When you consistently practice level 3 listening, you don't just become a better leader, you become more comfortable with complexity, ambiguity, and emotions. You develop what researchers call cognitive flexibility, the ability to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously without needing to immediately resolve them. Most new leaders want certainty, they want clear answers, defined problems, straightforward solution. But the real leadership exists in the messy space between the competing priorities, unspoken concerns, and partial information. Is level 3 listening is your tool for navigating that space. The leader I have seen master this skill, they become the leaders people wants to talk to. The one who hears about the problems early. The one whose team trusts them with difficult truths. That's not because they have all the answers. It's because they have demonstrated consistently, repeatedly, that they can handle the complete truth. That's the real power of transformational listening. So, now you have just learned the system for truly hearing your team. But listening is only half of the communication equation. Next week, we are going to tackle the other half, which is giving feedback that actually changes behavior. Well, because here's the thing, most feedbacks fails. Even when leaders have good intention and accurate observation, the feedback doesn't stick at all. Well, I'm going to show you a framework, a system that replaces the outdated feedback sandwich with something that actually works. You learn what's the timing of the feedback, why you learn why the timings of the feedback matters more than the content, how to deliver criticism without triggering defensiveness, the 72 hours follow through protocol that ensures behavioral change. It's the perfect complement to what you learned today. You'll listen at level 3 to gather complete information, and then you'll deliver the feedback that create real change. So implement this week's 30-day challenge, practice the PARE system, master the transformational listening. And I'll see you guys in the next week when we complete your communication foundation. You got this. I'll see you guys in the next one.